Perceive, process, perform. Do you need inspiration for your practice, or do you simply need to practice inspiration? With this series, we aim to do both. Give us 15 minutes and we'll give you practice inspiration. Tim Greaves is a partner with Kane Waters & Associates for over 11 years. With over 20 years' experience, there isn't much he hasn't seen as it relates to financial planning for dentists.
Hi, my name's Tim Greaves. I'm a partner with Kane Waters & Associates in Dallas, and we are a CPA firm that specializes in financial planning for dentists. And just because you heard CPA, don't automatically tune me out, because I know everyone has a CPA, and just for your information, we only do the CPA work for about 50% of our clients. Of the other 50%, we work closely with their CPAs. They want to keep their local CPA back home, which is fine. But what I want to talk about today is some financial planning. I'm going to provide you with 3 different things that you can implement at home, and those are what we refer to as 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, which is how money grows. That's our philosophy on how money grows. We're going to talk about a break-even number that every dentist needs to know. And then we're going to talk about something that we refer to as the tax spiral. The tax spiral has to deals with debt. So one of the things that we have in common with the Seattle Study Club is we're very focused on education. And education is very important to us. Every client that comes in our office for the first time, we spend anywhere from 2 to 3 hours just explaining our basic philosophies about money. About how money accumulates, about debt, the different tax spirals. So we spend 2 to 3 hours with every single person talking to them about our philosophies on money. This is something that no one has ever been taught in school. Dentists are not taught, obviously, about money in school. They're taught very little about business in school, although most of them are very successful. But we teach our people, our clients, about money. And we even have a public charity, a public foundation that we set up. It's called the 3-to-1 Foundation, and anyone's welcome to attend these seminars. But this foundation was set up to help educate our clients' children. And so we volunteer our time because our clients' children are going to be the beneficiaries of the money that our clients accumulate. So we want them to understand the concepts of how money grows and how to preserve money and perpetuate it. Okay? So let's talk about some of the things that keep people up at night. What keeps you up at night? Is it cash flow? Is it retirement? Is it bringing an associate into your practice? Usually there's some triggering factor that happens in someone's life. Maybe their kids are going to college, whatever, that they end up giving us a call. And then we talk through things and we work out, whatever it is their goals are. One of the things that I always ask people is how do you define being financially successful? And everyone has a different criteria for that. And I have, for example, one client, his definition of being financially successful was he had 5 boys, and he wanted to put them through Ivy League educations, and he wanted to pay for it all. And he did, and they all went and got higher education, so it wasn't just your normal 4 years, but it was 5 or 6 years total, and he paid for it all. Well, obviously that set him back in his retirement, 10, 12, 15 years, but he was completely fine with that because that was important to him, okay? I read a great leadership quote the other day, and it is, when you have a vision for your tomorrow, it changes everything you do today. Okay, and so I started thinking about this. This was presented by a man by the name of Rick Wooliver. He writes a leadership quote every single day. And I started thinking about this. And if you think about your patients, okay, so 2 weeks out they get the text that you have a hygiene appointment coming up in 2 weeks. What do they instantly start doing? They instantly start flossing, right? Because they want a good grade when they come to the dentist. They want the hygienist to be happy, they want the doctor to be happy. And so I started thinking about that. And some of you dentists think that they might floss every single day, but Some of them do not floss every single day. I also looked at the analogy of running a marathon. If you know what your vision for tomorrow is, for those of you that have ever run a marathon, you know that you start months and months in advance, and you have a very regimented plan that you're going to run these certain days every single week, building up to where you want to get to. Okay? Accumulating wealth is no different. We generate a plan, and that's the discipline that comes with accumulating wealth. So what is your definition of being successful or financially successful? I gave you one example of one of my clients. Our definition is when you have the peace and security that comes from knowing that you can take care of yourself, your family, and your staff. And there's a lot to be said about being secure, right? Being financially successful and secure, to have that peace and security. Anyone can be financially successful with focus, discipline, and time. And accumulating wealth is no different. That's what got you guys to where you are in the dental world. You're part of the Seattle Study Club. Well, obviously that requires a lot of focus, discipline, and time on your part. And so we at Kane Waters focus on the same thing, just on the accumulation of wealth side of things. Money will double for anyone. You don't necessarily have to be a dentist who makes a lot of money. You know, money, we'll talk about money doubling in just a moment, but money will double for everyone. Your staff, you know, everyone that you know, if they have the right amount of money and the money is accumulated enough at such a level, then it will double over time. So what I would like to talk about now is our philosophy on how money grows. And we refer to this as 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1. And 1-to-1 means that when your annual return on your money equals your annual savings as determined by your financial plan. Now what that means is, I'll give you an example. So let's say that you're 40 years old, you want to accumulate $2.5 million in 20 years. So working backwards at an 8% return, you would have to save $50,000 a year to get to the end goal of $2.5 million. Well, you're saving that $50,000 every year. When your return on your money equals $50,000, that's what we call 1-to-1. So it's a ratio of 1-to-1. 2-to-1 is when your annual return on your money is double your annual savings. So in my example, $100,000 would be your annual return, and you're saving $50,000 a year, so that's 2-to-1. 3-to-1 is when it's triple. It's 3 times, your annual return is 3 times your annual savings amount. Okay? And people always ask, well, what was your return on your money? And I tell people, I fire back a question at them and say, okay, well, tell me where you are on the 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1 growth curve. Because this is one thing that you guys need to understand, is that everyone is on the 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1 growth curve. And depending on where you are in that curve, either the saving the money is the most important, or the return on your money is the most important. Okay? So in the beginning, when you're starting to save money, saving money is the most important in getting to 1-to-1. Once you get to 2-to-1, saving the money and the return become equally important. And once you get to 3-to-1, return is really the only thing that matters. You don't need to save any more money once you hit 3-to-1, because your pile of money, we use technical terms at Kane Waters, pile. Everyone likes a big pile of money, right? So when your pile of money is generating 3 times what you're saving, that's when you're at 3-to-1, and that's where you can actually stop saving money. Okay, a lot of people continue to save money just out of security and peace of mind, but that's the ultimate goal, is to get to 3-to-1, because then your money starts compounding on itself. Basically what this is compounding interest, just in layman's terms. And so we figured out a way to map where everyone is on this growth curve. And so you can do the math at home for yourself. And then here's a number that every dentist needs to know, and that is what we call the break-even number. Some people call it a BAM, which is a basic amount of money every month, but we come up with a number, we help calculate a number, and we call it a break-even number. And the break-even is such that it encompasses every single expense that you have in your personal life and your practice. And it includes, if you think about, the old dreaded personal spending, right? So how much money do you spend on your mortgage, your groceries, your dining out, your country club, your eating out, your house payments, your kids' education, saving for your kids' education? These are all expenses that we all have that we need to understand where the money goes and how much money we actually spend on those areas. So that's one piece of the break-even calculation. Another piece is the federal and state taxes that you pay. How much is that? How much your debt payments are inside your practice and at home personally, if you have debt at home, which most people do. And then we talk about the practice numbers. And so you look at your fixed costs, your direct costs, which are your staff, lab, dental supplies, office supplies. So you take all of those expenses into consideration to come up with a break-even number, okay? And so everyone needs to know what that number is, because what you want to do is at a minimum, that's the number that you need to hit every month to pay for all of your bills, okay? And this thing, the break-even, fits together like a jigsaw puzzle. So if there's one thing out of whack, for example, if my lifestyle is out of whack, then it affects how much money I can save into my 401k plan or my cash balance plan, which then affects my financial plan, which then the amount of money I can save into my 401k plan affects my taxes, because my taxes go up because I can't save into the tax-deferred environment. So it's all very interrelated. But you can come up with the calculation on your own and kind of walk through it. But keep in mind that keep in mind where some of the adjustments are that can be made either in your personal life or your practice. I'll give you an example. I had a guy who came in last week, and the first time I'd ever met him, he had 7 cars, a second home, and a big RV, okay? And so we're talking about where we can cut some of the expenses, and obviously there's some fluff there, as we call it. But you remember when we all had checkbooks? We used to write checks, and so I always tell people, well, look at your checkbook, and that's what's important to you. Wherever you're spending your money, that's where your time and energy is going. Is it going towards savings? Is it going towards eating out? Those are all some of the things that you want to consider, because adjustments can be made in this break-even calculation. We're always trying to figure out how to put money into the tax-deferred environment, into a 401k plan, into a cash balance plan, a simple plan, a defined benefit plan. Those are the types of plans that we like. Keep in mind that we're a bunch of CPAs, so we like tax deductions, okay? Anything that you can put your money into and get a tax deduction, that's what we want, because the government's already given you a 40% return on your money, right? Because you get a tax deduction. Pretty much everyone watching this or listening to this is going to be in the 40% tax bracket. And some of you in states that have high income taxes, you're going to be in the 45 to 50% tax bracket. So if you can put money into the 401k plan, then instantly you get a 40 to 50% return on your money. And that is obviously the best return out there. So let's talk about another component of the break-even, and this is something that is always a little emotional for people, and that is debt, okay? Debt is emotional because, everyone feels like they're chained to the bank if they have debt. Well, a lot of people want to pay off their debt as quickly as possible. And what happens when you pay off your debt as quickly as possible is that you get caught up in what we refer to as the tax spiral. The tax spiral is when money goes out the door and you don't have a corresponding tax deduction to go with it. Because principal payments on debt are not tax deductible. The interest payments are, but the principal payments are not. A lot of the younger doctors we see, they want to pay down their debt as quickly as possible. Our philosophy and idea on debt is that we want you to pay it over a reasonable period of time. You have to be prudent with your debt, I understand. But if we can take some of that and we might stretch out the debt just a little bit longer and take the incremental difference and save it into our 401k plan and get a tax deduction, because what we're trying to do, if you go back to 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, we're trying to accumulate money in the beginning. We're trying to save as much as we can, and that might, go work in connection with your debt. I'll give you an example. I had a client we just referred. We refinanced his house. He was paying it off over 10 years. We refinanced it over 15 years, and he ended up saving $2,500 a month, okay, in his payment. So we took that $2,500 a month, which is $30,000 for the year. We took that $30,000 and we put it into the 401k plan. Well, instantly he saves 40% on his $30,000, right? So that's $12,000. So we saved $12,000 in taxes. We took that money and we put it back into the 401k plan. So then we saved another $4,800 in taxes, okay? So when we saved that money, we put that money back into the 401k plan and saved another $1,900. So if you go back and you do all of the math, then he ended up being able to put in about $50,000 because we refinanced that $2,500 a month. Okay, so that's some of the things that we think about, and these things affect your break-even calculation because your debt goes down a little bit, your personal savings goes up, and your taxes go down. All in the break-even. So you'll be able to move things around inside your break-even. So that's something to be aware of. So how does one get started with this? Okay? The important thing is that it's never too late. It's never too late to get started. I'll give you a quick example. I had a 60-year-old who was recently divorced. He had $383,000 and he wanted to retire someday. So we put forth a plan. We focused on his break-even, and he had a good practice. He collected between $95,000 and $100,000 a month, and he did that from the time he met me in 2006 until the time he retired, January the 1st of 2015. So he ended up at $383,000, or he began at $383,000, ended up at $2.8 million in 8 or 9 years. So that's pretty good. Okay, we put in some pretty complex tax planning on the end. When he sold his practice, we sheltered a lot of the money from proceeds. We set up a defined benefit cash balance plan for him, so he was able to shelter a lot of that money from taxes, so he didn't have to pay tax on it. Okay, so then it built his pile even that much more. So those are just some examples. So look at your break even. Understand the concepts of 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, and look at your debt. I know debt is emotional, no one likes it, but at interest rates at where they are today, which is very, very low, we can use debt to our advantage in our payments. So just remember the quote that I said earlier today, and that was, when you have a vision for your tomorrow, it changes everything you do today. Thank you very much.